Developed, created, and owned by James Artistry Productions. Hello, Perceptive Reader. This is James Lynch, and do you hear that? Remember I told you I was going to celebrate for my Wisdom Letter book release that came out yesterday. It's the February 2025. And I said that I would have me a glass of wine for lunch. Now, it's actually 30 minutes before 12. But, hey, I'm taking these moments to share a topic with you before. You see, I eat whatever I am going to eat for lunch. It may be just something along the lines of bacon. Okay, yeah, just bacon today for lunch. And I know some person said, oh, well, I'm still just telling you, I'll probably fry me some bacon for lunch. And with that in mind, I still have my half a glass of wine, which I haven't taken a sip yet for, because I want you to know the topic that I'm about to talk about. I am still of very much sound mind. And even if I had drinking, a half a glass of wine, it certainly doesn't affect my view or articulation of the subject that I'm sharing with you right now. This is just what I would call a lighthearted topic, still on a serious matter that affects people at times. And this is still going along those same thoughts that I've shared with you earlier about this knowledge saves your rights. This knowledge saves your rights. Okay. And I posted it on Spotify. And eventually, when the Who's Ass Power presentations get all cleared out, in that level, because remember I told you I can't upload even new podcasts or videos at times to display them on my website for you because I still only have the free version, and sometimes everything just doesn't work right for me to upload new videos. Now, I want you to know that for years as well, I've had some persons who relate they don't like me, sharing my likes, dislikes, story presentations, or what have you. And all the same, you know what? They have their opinion. But I will continue to do what I would do. There's nothing wrong in it. Even if somebody doesn't like what you do, it doesn't mean anything is wrong with it. And this is along the lines of the topic. I just want to say that from reading the Bible, you actually see a method that God uses in his imploring, I implore you, so to speak, in order to listen to what he's saying. And it is actually a method that I'm telling you today, there are really personalities that don't agree with that method. See, I really want to emphasize that, because this goes to give you to show an example today how humans, some, depending on their views and their personality, they can actually give many motivational ways and some good advice as to why you should carry your life in such a way. And yet that still doesn't change the fact that because God still will do something totally opposite and will still implore you to do something totally opposite. See, it doesn't mean that God is wrong. Certainly not. Now, does it? And yet he will still allow for those personalities to even make their way through life the best way that they can. However, some of those same personalities that can be very successful in a variety of fields, you know what? It doesn't mean, though, that they would be able to carry on a very important responsibility, you see, in God's house. And that is the reality of it all. And yet these individuals who can, in true spirit and honesty, carry on those type of responsibilities in God's heart, guess what? Are sometimes still condemned by many of the so-called successful ones that's in the world. I just want you to realize that. So what is that method that God uses to employ others? Well, many persons, can really relate whether they believe in God or not. Stories about the Red Sea parting, you see, the destruction of Pharaoh's forces. People can relate when persons were struck down, even by an angel. Persons can relate other accounts where God even had to bring judgment upon the world, like the flood of Noah. And I'm telling you, when they relate such instances, is to go to show the judgments of God, how God will be angry with you, how God will strike you down, how God will do that. You see everything in such that finality of judgment. Okay? Now let me take my first sip of wine. But you know something? What is not always really emphasized is the thousands upon thousands of times God was showing that, and some women would love this, and I just want to say it because God is one whole God, as he emphasizes, but since he does use illustrations often to describe his sensitive feelings as a woman, okay, as a hen, even though, he also describes his feelings in that manner, and others that show a very sensitive, loving side, then this is what, I still want to emphasize, that the thousands of times in that type of mode of his love, you see, his actions, his display of love, he implored persons, please listen. Please sit down and make this matter right with me. You will hear expressions of, I'm a loving God. I pardon thousands of sins. I'm full of mercy. These are expressions. Angels, and God certainly could say about himself, because he's the Almighty, and he's not lying. God cannot lie. See, that's what the scriptures even say, he cannot lie. So, you just don't hear, you hear the God saith he's going to destroy this city, you hear that. By the way the prophets express the seriousness, and sometimes according to their own personality. Yet all the same, those thousands of times of saying, listen to me, please. Okay, tell me, please, why you feel the way that you do. Even though God, could easily know, but he still gave examples with Job, with Abraham, with Jonah, with Moses, and others. That even though God always knows what's right, see, in his many applications of showing us of his love, he treats us with a human being with dignity and rights. and let us express ourselves and even do certain things, even when we're not even in accurate knowledge of what would be good for us. And that's what I mean when I talk about these different aspects of people personalities on the earth today. I said before, I've seen business people, professionals, things of that nature, and make no mistake about it, some of their own practices, I'm just telling you like it is, I would consider are just downright ruthless. I'm telling you. And it's like, it's no room for error at all. And yet, for them, they really feel this is what they had to do in order to be successful at their business. And then some of these same individuals, I know throughout the years, will point to me and really say, that's why you're in the state that you're in, because you put up with too much mess from these persons that you deal with. See? And so they have a point there. All I can just say is, depending on your experience and responsibilities you had in life, I just want to remind you that when I talked about some policemen and peace officers who have retired, even some before they hit their upper 60s or what have you, you can find some of them still on the weekend, if you will, other aspects on playgrounds, who have taken jobs, because they still end up having their permit, and everything to carry sidearms, etc. To what? To help out their community, and in other ways. And so what you find out is, you can take the peace officer out of the occupation. You see what I'm saying? But you still can't take that type of deep-seated, honorable feeling, security, you see, to protect, others out of the peacekeeper. And so you still see them carry out who they are in different ways, whether they're in a certain job or not. You see what I'm saying? And so it's the same thing that when I tell you about God's love, God is love. And he actually really does instruct and even instill at times something in persons through their relationship that they've had with him, through the responsibilities that they've carried out for him, that it sometimes just still even goes over into the regular, secular, mundane things of life, even in business. And so you may find a supervisor or a manager who would put up with more mess than what another one will. And yet at the same time, I tell you what, remember I told you God wants us to be sane. See, if within the allowance, you see, of the policies, even of the company, that they are able to extend understanding in this way or that way, let me tell you, there's been some persons that once they really did have to receive an adverse judgment in this way or that way, guess what? They really did know, because they had learned still a lot during the experience, that this was, in this case, just what was the right judgment for them, even though it was an adverse one, because their minds were actually still being trained in the correct way. And guess what? In the dignified way for them to understand the sentence, you see, so to speak. And so far more was done to give the person the understanding in these matters than if, you step on this crack once and you're just gone, you see. And that's, I told you, the way some personalities are. And so the whole point is, the aspect of God's personality, though, is, I mean, far and wide, that the Bible really does go to show this. Overall, God implores you with dignity. God will even say please with respect towards you. And you already know He's holy, and yet He said please to unrighteous and sinful human beings. The Bible has shown that. So what does that tell you again about the magnificence, the gloriousness of God? That should tell you something about who He is and His personality right there. And yet you see humans today, when really we're still all on the same level. We really are. Yet the way we treat one another. And yet God, who is in heaven, don't even treat us in the ways, bad ways that we treat one another. And see, His imploring to make matters straight. And to make matters straight again, and not to even want to humiliate you. Human beings don't do that today. To make matters straight in a way that it's like He said, I'm doing this to help you to benefit yourself. Now, how much is that a motive for a lot of human beings today? I'm going to take me a second sip. So with that being said, you know, you got persons who have grasped that type of spirit and mercy from God. And so make no mistake about it. I tell you today, if God strike a person down, you know, there are some people who still even fear the great all-inspiring day of Armageddon that will come upon the earth one day. You see, you can be sure that no one who has that spirit of God in their heart, you see what I'm saying, of love, the two greatest commandments, they won't have anything to worry about. They can still hold their heads up in confidence whether all the ones around them are condemning them. You see what I'm saying? So God implores people, and He normally does it thousands upon thousands of times before He just go ahead and, bring down judgments. Because the judgment is what we gather from Jesus is what they really truly did bring upon themselves. And not because God wanted them to no longer have everlasting life. Have a very wonderful lunch. I think I'm going to make my bacon. Take care.